Right back at you. Game day for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I've got a new haircut.
You look great.
It's
Fresh.
16 degrees outside. We could have golfed today.
Spring is in the air. I got purple on. Bring on Easter.
What is better than that going into tonight's contest between the Toronto Maple Leafs and Colorado Avalanche? I'm Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee, Derek Brandeo, Jake Schultz here for the next 2 hours, including this hour that is live on Sportsnet 590 The Fan, Sportsnet 360, and Sportsnet Plus. Leaf Hour edition, jam-packed today, including a doctor segment, Dr. Jason Smith, our orthopedic guru, because there's lots of talk about Gabriel Landeskog making a comeback, but not just any comeback. We're talking about a comeback off a cartilage transplant surgery.
He's got a documentary out, this guy.
That's where my expertise just falls off.
Yeah, no. I don't know. I do hockey. Doctor's going to tell us what's going on.
Top of the hour, Jason York, co-host of Coming in Hot, Sens podcast, will join us as well. We'll talk about those Ottawa Senators, the Montreal Canadiens last night. Critical game that ended up in favor of the Montreal Canadiens, but we'll get his thoughts as well. And then Aaron Ward, Stanley Cup champion with Carolina Hurricanes. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but they've been really, really good since trading away the Rantanen headache,
Hockey's weird.
according to them.
Well,
hockey's weird.
they had won 3 in a row before they traded him. And then they traded him and they've won 4 in a row. So they're just hot. They're just playing well.
That's the way she goes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What version of the Toronto Maple Leafs do we expect tonight versus a very good team?
Before we get into that,
Okay.
can I ask you something?
Yeah, anything.
Because you just mentioned the Habs and the Sens game last night, which I watched the third period. And, you know, I thought it was a fantastic crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And the Montreal crowd is out of this world. And, like, the goal pop when Nick Suzuki pulls that off of Allmark's pad and jams it home, they go absolutely mental. Tickets are cheap there? Is that why there's real fans in the lower bowl? Like, what? Like, why does it look like that?
That's a
Why,
great
what?
question.
They're giving them away for free out front. Like,
Probably not.
I don't understand why that looks so much better.
Corinne, our Sportsnet makeup artist, saw her today. She tells me she went to the Canadiens versus the Florida Panther game.
Cool.
Good game.
Yeah, really good game. They won, of course.
Yep.
And she said they did the wave for 10 minutes.
I heard that.
The wave for 10 minutes. And my first thought is,
It's a little too long.
She was telling you as a positive, and I heard you be like, that's too bad.
yeah. And I'm like, okay, once or twice.
Yeah.
But if I see that thing coming and I got to stand up again, I've had enough.
Yeah.
10 minutes. And she said it was fantastic
But your point is?
that she's younger than I am.
No, well, that for one. But it ain't happening at Scotiabank Arena.
But I thought on Monday
Did they
night,
do the wave? I don't know.
the St. Pat's game,
Yeah.
I thought the crowd was excellent. And I think probably because it was St. Patrick's Day, like a little half an hour later start, potentially a little more grease involved. People were
Grease.
fired up.
Grease is the key.
There was a wave that happened at the Leafs
Okay,
game.
all right.
But it just, I watched that crowd.
Is
like,
it different?
why does it look like
Is it different? Do we know it's different?
What?
The Montreal, the Leafs? Like, is it that's
Oh,
not
my
just a
God.
perception
Like,
yet?
you watched the third period? That crowd, it was like a final game, the way they were
I would
popping.
say the bigger question is like, does it seem like there's more jerseys in the lower bowl there?
Yes.
Because because it's also businesses presumably buying tickets there.
Maybe they're just more passionate people in Montreal.
Maybe they're just less jaded. They've only really they've
The
only
final not that long
recently
ago.
sucked
Okay.
for the largest stretch of their history.
Mhm.
And Leaf fans have done it since 67.
Fair. Listen, that's
It's
fair.
almost as if the Leaf fans are like they're willing to go out there and cheer and look like normal fans, but they kind of come across like they're waiting for something bad to happen.
Well, they are.
I mean, and to be fair,
So
that's
There's a guillotine above their necks.
we
Having
can't
fun.
you can't really compare Leaf fans to any other fans.
I guess you're right.
Because
I guess you're right.
they've been stung the worst in the league.
All right.
But I do. Okay. Last thing on this. I do think though.
You brought this up.
I know. I do think. That if you had a number of very passionate fans of the Toronto Maple Leafs. If you had like a lot of the true fans of the lower bowl, it would look a lot like that.
Of course.
So just saying that maybe
They're there. The fans exist.
So the corporate people in Montreal are way bigger fans of the Habs than the corporate fans in Toronto. Anyways, move on. Just a quick thought.
Okay. Overall thoughts going in tonight, coming off a game against a team that didn't fare very well, and by the way, didn't even look remotely the same 24 hours later last night at Madison Square Gardens.
Yeah, I don't know. The thought tonight is, here's what's interesting. Joseph Woll is going to get the start. That, to me, is a noteworthy development. I think it's noteworthy that David Kampf doesn't seem to be drawing back in for 3 straight healthy scratches, which, he makes 2.2 or whatever he makes as a centerman. It's kind of a lot of games for a healthy Kampf to not play. That's all I got. Woll in particular is noteworthy.
Yesterday in our national hour, if you didn't have a chance to listen, Stephen Valiquette was as good as he has ever been on our show, and he right away did the Joseph Woll Stolars, and he did not hesitate. It was Joseph Woll should be the guy.
Mm-hmm. He said that by bad start percentage, Joseph Woll has way fewer. He has I think 18% of his starts are bad starts, and I think he said Stolars is like 27. He said so. Maybe Stolar's best game is better, but he's saying that you're more likely to get a reliable goaltending performance out of Woll.
You think this tips the hand of now they're shaping Woll into a chance to run with this thing, or is it just simply you'd rather have Stolars at the Garden tomorrow night against the New York Rangers because the last time he went in there, it was a 3-2 win, and he was lights out.
Yeah. They're both going to play back-to-back, so it's very possible that they just said, who suits which game more?
I think coming off Stolars is not great night in Colorado last week. I think that has to kind of play into not giving him another chance at Colorado, protecting him, and feeling good about Joseph Woll right now, and then putting Stolars in a position to succeed again in New York tomorrow night.
Would you like to hear Berube's justification for starting? Clip 5, please, Derek.
Yeah. All right.
Clip 5.
Oh, we're coming up in 5, 4, 3.
Talk amongst
yourselves.
All right. Here's my thoughts on Joseph Woll's season. It has gone exactly as you would want it to go for him. Who, he was injured in the early part of the season. But, one of the questions we had about him is, can he handle a starter's workload? Real heavy game. And when Stolars got hurt, it forced him into a spot where he played a lot of hockey in a row, right? Didn't get a ton of relief. He got through that unhurt and playing well. Now Stolars is back. He's kind of splitting the starts again. He's been really put in a position now to succeed here. And I feel pretty good about where his game is at. Keep in mind, going into this year, you would have wanted him to be the guy as the younger guy with the longer contract, right?
We now have clip 5. Can you play clip 5, please, Eric?
Stolars tonight?
No, Woll.
Any special reason why he got this one, Woll, of the back-to-back?
I liked his last 2 games, so gonna go with him again tonight.
It's never an algorithm doing the. He's just like, I just liked it.
I mean, he went
pretty simple.
He went with Stolars 2 starts in a row, 2 of the bigger games of the year against Florida when he lost, not his fault, lost the game. Against Ottawa Saturday night, they lost the game. Goes to Woll against Calgary in a huge game. They get the win. I think you go back to a guy and you kind of see if you can put a couple wins in a row together, because we're now, I think I saw David Amber send a tweet today. We were exactly 1 month away from the start of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah.
I think you got to figure out if a guy can play a couple in a row and win a few games in a row here. So I think the competition's on.
Not to kind of derail this into a bigger look here, but I'm going to do it anyways. Like, if you really, truly look at the schedule moving forward, it just puts a cherry on top that this was a cruddy schedule for the Toronto Maple Leafs all season long. I'm like, okay, so they got Colorado tonight at home.
Mm-hmm.
Then they got a back-to-back in New York. Nashville. Then they come back Tuesday, and then they got to go out west.
Yeah.
And it's like, that sucks.
They actually
So-
have 4 back-to-backs to end the season here.
Whatever, like,
Yeah, 4. Brutal.
whatever this team felt like coming off of a fairly normal kind of feeling of being at home this last week, because we did the game in Utah, and then at least they got home Thursday, Saturday, Monday, home, fit a practice in there somewhere, kind of rest a little bit.
It actually
They got to go back out there and go all hairy again.
It's actually brutal because it's a back-to-back, and then the second game being in New York, I'm sure they'll fly right to Nashville, right? They're not going to come home and then fly out to Nashville the next day.
Exactly.
So then you're in Nashville, you come home, they go out to the West Coast. Yeah, one game
against
go to the
Philly.
West Coast, and you get San Jose, then a back-to-back LA Anaheim. You come home, you get a couple of games at home over a week stretch maybe, and then you go to Florida and you get a back-to-back there. You come home and you do a Montreal-Carolina back-to-back. That's a tough road in. And then
And
they finish
so-
the year with Buffalo and
so-
Detroit,
so-
at Buffalo versus Detroit.
Do you see now, looking at this schedule, that a Stolars or a Woll can go like a week or 10 days and get into this groove?
You know, there's 15 games left. You're already splitting the back-to-backs. So there's 4 and 4, and now we're down to 7 games out of the 15 left. So it's probably going to be 4 and 3. These guys are probably going to split at 8 and 7.
Yeah, that's the way I see it.
Yeah.
And I was just looking at that schedule going, where do you fit it in? Where do you fit in? Oh, now I'm going to let one guy get hot. It's not set up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's not ideal for that, is it?
Okay.
That is a crazy schedule.
As far as the team following up a feel-good Monday night against Calgary, how important is the look tonight for you?
Very important. You know, the bigger picture is that over this run of play, they played some test games. You've said this year, how many games do you think are measuring stick games? 20? 15?
Less than 20.
Yeah. And they played Florida, Vegas, Colorado, and they got smoked. So, yeah, I would certainly say that how they look tonight does matter.
Florida game was close.
Florida game was close.
Smoked is, I think, a little bit
Yeah.
potentially aggressive, but but they got beat. And Kyper didn't think it was as close as we did. But
I think just for me, in all those games, they just spend way too much in their time in their own zone. That's all. And then sustained forecheck. Again, like, can we have a game where they get 35 shots on goal? Is that possible?
I know.
No?
I
Do we
don't
have
know.
to always be around like 4 or 5 a period, 7 a period? Can they have a game where they just get pucks to the net with some sustaining time?
So I did this like AWS Ice Tilt thing. I think I mentioned it the other day, but just about how much they control the play. They're like 24th in the NHL in terms of this ice tilt stat, which is just how much you guys are taking it to the opposition. They are very often getting it taken to them.
Do you have that list or no?
I can pull it up in 1 sec.
Okay.
The other,
I want to hear the top teams.
yeah, oh yeah, you'll
Okay.
recognize them.
Yes.
The other piece of that is that they are 5th in the NHL in forecheck chances. So they are a dump and chase team,
Yeah.
and they get chances off the forecheck. Is that enough?
So they that sounds like one and done.
Yes. Sure. If that's one way to take it. They do create it off the forecheck, but then they don't maintain possession.
Nothing.
Absolutely.
Nothing. No second, third opportunities. No waves.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. As of no, that's last
But
year.
you would think that the way they've tried to play in years past under Sheldon Keefe was more of the wave way, right? Where they tried to hold
They were
the puck,
7th last year.
where they'd want to have the puck a lot more. They want the regroups. They want to hold on to it. They want to, cycle it more, as opposed to getting it on the end glass, hammering a guy
So-
through it, and putting it to the front of the
Craig
net.
Four
Berube
of the top 5 teams are Carolina, Florida, Colorado, and Edmonton.
Mm.
Somehow Nashville's in there. But I think it's because they're losing all the time and they're constantly
Yeah.
score effects.
Yeah.
I think sometimes they look like there's a lot of pressure no matter where they are, no matter how much duress they're under or how much time that they have, that Craig Berube's telling them pucks to the net.
Mhm.
And there's times, yes, that is important. You need to recognize when it's better than a turnover, but there's also times when it could be
Look for
a
something better.
really bad play.
Mm-hmm.
Either a goalie absorbs it for a face-off or you actually turn the puck over.
Yeah. Well, Washington is not very high up in this, and they tend to be a look for a shot quality team. They get the highest quality
Yeah,
chance.
that's what Valley was saying yesterday, that they don't warm the goalies up.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
That was part of the Washington conversation we had with him yesterday.
Right. And that checks out with their numbers too. So
Okay.
Did you want to play the clip, first clip from Berube on following up from Monday's win? I thought it was a good clip from Berube. So
all right,
clip one.
let's do it.
If you look at the first period and just the predictability and the directness of, going south, going north, putting pucks at the net, recovering them, and, not hesitating, moving it quick, shooting it again, recovering. We were on our toes, and, we won a lot of loose puck recoveries, a lot of shot attempts. We didn't, we went back with the puck, we moved it up, got it going north, and we got to do the same thing tonight.
Can I ask you two a question? Is predictable is good?
Yes. In his mind.
Why is predictable?
He's not talking about the opposition predicting. He's talking about the players on his team, the teammates having a predictability amongst each other.
I got to say, and I've changed my stance on this, I do think it is good. I think it's important that everyone's on the same page and you can trust what your teammate is going to do and where they're going to be. A lot of hockey I've come to learn and coaching is you just have to throw your fastball down the gut sometimes and see if they can hit it.
And
just throw it.
When
Even if they know it's coming.
When people say and speak of identity, it's based off the predictability of what you are. So you can't have an identity if you cannot be somewhat predictable on how you look or play a hockey club. So I think that's exactly what he wants is a predictability to be a hard team that forechecks, a hard team to get pucks to the net and then have your second and third opportunities. Don't hesitate.
One thing you hear people say around the NHL is that there are no secrets in the NHL anymore. Everyone has video. Everyone has stats. 32 teams play two systems between the 32 teams, essentially. Either a 1-2-2 or a 1-3-1, basically. They forecheck one of two ways, and you know what your opposition does. It's not possible on a hockey bench to say this line's going to play at this and you're going to play at that. So you kind of have to be like, they know what we're trying to do. Let's see if they can stop it. And that's something the Leafs, I guess, want to have more of.
Because when you hear that, that's immediately you think I would like to
catch them off guard here and there.
A little bit unpredictable at times would be okay.
But you're counting on the guys who are elite offensive players to do unpredictable things with it once you create those touches.
Well said.
Somewhere out there's an argument that if you're talking about 3 or 4 or 5 of the best players in the universe, Colorado has 2 of them. Let's get Craig Berube's thoughts on McKinnon and Cale Makar.
Key to slowing down McKinnon.
Well, I don't know, but if you find out before the game, you can let me know. You just got to try to stay on top of them the best you can. It's just like playing McDavid, right? They got great speed and they're competitive guys with tons of skill. It's about trying to slow them down, picking them up in the neutral zone, trying to get on top of them, deny them the puck as much as possible, take time and space. It's all the same things that every coach says.
Well, follow up on that. How do you do it with Makar? And he's coming from the back end.
Probably even more difficult. He's obviously a great player, and again, it's a lot of the same things. Just trying to, get above him as much as you can, and trying to make him work in his own zone. I think, tonight we got to make this team play in their own end as much as possible, and then it's important when that's happening that we can get some good line changes and get fresh people on the ice, and make them extend their shifts as much as possible.
They're the
2 key points, yep.
Yeah, Colorado is the second best high danger chance team in the NHL. They create a ton. second best rush chance team, first best cycle chance team.
Leafs are just going to have the puck a lot more.
Yeah.
And
See-
you got to get it. You got to keep it out of his hands and Makar's as much as you can here. And that's really on now for me, Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner. They have to have the puck. Sometimes Mitch gets lost because he doesn't get the puck enough. And I thought against against Calgary, Matthews had jump for me. He had a forcefulness to him that, there's a fine line between waiting for the puck and then saying, damn it, I'm going to go get it myself now. I'll just go get it. And Matthews, as we know, has been one of the best over his career at taking pucks away.
Yeah.
Haven't seen a lot of that this year, but that's the philosophy you have to have against this team. Just have the puck more than they do.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was how the Leafs wanted to defend in previous years. It was like, all right, we're just going to try to have the puck more, and it can be challenging when the other team also has really good players. So, yeah, we'll see if this north-south thing, how it holds up against Colorado again. I do feel like the Leafs are finding their game a little bit, and I know that they'd lost some games recently, a lot of games. But I found that they were playing good teams. It was post-trade deadline. Things were kind of coming together. Looked great against Calgary. I think they'll give Colorado a good game tonight. And the Avs obviously buzzing as much as anyone.
Makar on pace for 30 this year. He has 25 goals.
He's a joke.
There's
so
been
good.
there's been 17 30-goal seasons by NHLers in the history of the league.
D-man.
Do I want to test you guys?
So is it like Ray Bork counts for 5 or something?
Ray Bork's had a few of them. Yeah.
Just how did you phrase that again?
There's
30
been-
goal seasons
There's been
from D.
17. 30 goals.
17. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. 17 in total.
Bobby Orr got some?
Yeah.
Yep.
Cough.
Yep. Coffee has the record. 48 goals.
Wow.
48 goals. He had in.
Did Lidstrom ever
Boy
have 30?
Leach ever?
No, I don't think Brian Leach ever had 30.
There's one really sneaky one, Kevin, that you would have played with, Kyper.
Is there a Niedermeyer
sneaky.
in there?
For the Caps.
30.
34.
Not Hatcher.
Kevin Hatcher.
Kevin
yeah.
Hatcher had 32.
30
He scored
goals?
30 he scored 34 goals, boys, in 92, 93.
Yeah.
That's
Bobby
incredible. What about
Orr.
Dennis Potvin?
Yes, sir. 3 times, 30, 31, 31. So there you go. Who else? Mike Green. Phil Housley had one. Doug Wilson had one. There you go.
Randy Carlyle. Did he ever come close?
Randy Carlyle.
He had a couple of big years. Didn't he? He won a Norris, didn't he?
Anyways, so Cale Makar is on pace to join that group. That's
elite company.
really amazing. It's actually pretty amazing that he hasn't done it already.
Yeah.
If you think about how many times he shoots it in the net. But I think if I'm power ranking my favorite guys to watch in the league, outside of McDavid, who I don't know if you saw the goal he scored last night.
God.
No
Give
one's
him a
ever
speeding
no
ticket.
one's ever gone faster.
I said to you guys, like, do you think you could defend him with a pistol?
No.
Like, if you're playing D and they give you a gun, could you stop
he's
Connor
cooking me.
McDavid?
He's cooking me.
Just Aaron shots into the rafters.
But I think Makar is in my top 5 favorite guys to watch in the league. Love watching him play.
I agree with that.
So, and he was so good for Canada. So, has a secondary assist on the McDavid goal.
It's just those guys are so rare. And then we're watching Quinn Hughes again last night. I'm watching him, and I'm like, this guy's just he's on another planet.
It just
He was
feels
so good last night.
it feels so different. Like the whole game is like circles around him, but it's not with speed. He just he seems to have it all the time.
His pace.
Yeah. But it's a different pace. It's a lateral pace. It's a patient pace.
And I know Morgan Riley can't be that, but he's going to have to find a ways to still stand out amongst this blue line core for the Maple Leafs. He still needs, for the Leafs to have great success, he's going to have to find to be the best version that he can to do that for the Leafs.
I wonder if getting comfortable with Brandon Carlo can free him up. They say him just be like, I trust my guy, and I'm going to be a go for it.
It's just so unreal. Kipper, it's just so unrealistic. Like,
To talk Quinn Hughes and then be like, can Morgan Riley?
he just
It's like,
can't.
Yeah.
We've seen it. We know what it looks like when it's at its best, and it hasn't been at its best in a long time. And it might be on the other side of
that
it.
first round against Tampa Bay.
And it might
He was pretty good for a 5-game stretch prior to the Four
when they
Nations
went out
game.
west.
Just before they shut down.
Yeah.
He was up the rink a lot, creating. That's what he has to do. He has to make a conscious effort to skate up the rink
Tonight,
against Colorado.
right? Just have somewhat of a look of pace of play for the best version
Get
that you
involved.
can be.
Be an option on the offensive side of things. Get up there. I think that would be great.
Did you want to play a clip from the last time they played? Leafs and Avalanche? Because it wasn't that long ago, and he talked about it a little bit today. Clip 2, please, Derek.
Well, I look back to second period, and that's a good second period team, Colorado, as we are too. But I thought they three-quarter iced us in that period and put us on our heels for the period, and that's draining. That takes a lot of energy out of you for the third, and I didn't feel we had enough juice in the third. I know we had the lead, but we lost it, and we got to do a better job of that tonight. And they do it. They're good at it, and we got to make sure that we're doing a better job of that.
For those looking for an explainer on what three-quarter ice means,
That's why I cut it.
Yeah.
it's like they have so much pressure that you're punting. So you're punting it out into the neutral zone. They're regrouping. You're diving into your bench for a change, and they're coming back.
You get to
So
play
you
on.
could-
They're playing on 3/4 of the ice. You're
yeah,
playing on a
you
quarter.
can't get it back to the other side.
Makes sense. Never heard that before.
And
No, I haven't either.
if you truly go back and now break down games, go watch how many unforced errors lead to a three-quarter ice.
Yeah.
I
And it
can't
messes up changes.
tell you
really
how
bad.
many times you watch the Leafs in control, maybe a D to D, then their heads up, they stop
Benoit
the
and
feet
Myers
moving.
pull the pin on the thing.
Then they go to their 30-foot launch, and it's like, oh, right back in our zone.
And it's the end of those guys' shift who are breaking it out. Meanwhile, the other team's coming on the rink. They're dumping it in. Your guys are now tired.
Yeah.
You're under pressure on a breakout.
You mentioned quickly. There's a couple things I want to get before we get to Doctor. But you mentioned the Benoit thing,
Mhm.
and it's forcing
Yes.
Oliver Ekman-Larsson to play on his offside. And I would say that Benoit recently, outside of the Superman punch and him just jumping and beating the crap out of Dryden Hunt, he's been in Leaf fans' crosshairs in terms of a bit of a whipping boy right now.
Yes.
Is Benoit is Myers coming in on the right side so that Oliver Ekman-Larsson can flip over to the other side? Is that enough of a benefit to try to change it? It is.
It's a great question, and I think an important one for the Leafs
Yeah.
is Benoit better enough than Myers that you want to make OEL worse?
Yes.
And I don't know that you're not better off with the best of OEL
Mhm.
and Myers. To me, Myers and Benoit, I like Benoit more,
Yeah, me too.
but Myers is long, rangy, defense first kind of guy. Also, I kind of secretly like that he wants to pound the pill every time it comes.
Myers?
With it. Yeah.
Oh, he loves the hammer.
If it's anywhere near him,
Yeah.
he shoots it. I kind of
Yeah.
like that. So to me, it's, they're kind of close, and I think OEL should play on the strong side. You, Kip?
Benoit has actually stood out for me the last
He's
little
been
while.
better. He's been better.
He's been better, but he's only better when other guys are worse too. I don't think McCabe's had a good week.
Mhm.
Better. Everybody's was better in Calgary. I get that,
Yeah.
but I think prior to that, he's
a little shaky.
a little shaky.
Agree.
And I think if those guys can step up, then there could be better pickings.
Mhm.
To your point,
Yeah.
on where you want to put certain people here. But I think collectively, this blue line has to have a really good, solid look tonight.
Yeah. And I do know that Myers fought the San Jose guys at Ferraro. Is that who he fought?
Yeah, after he hammered somebody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is good. But Benoit kind of wants to do that. He kind of wants. That's part of his game.
You get the feeling he's a pretty popular teammate. too,
Yeah.
You know?
But
And I think that probably matters as well. I don't know anything about Meyer, but just every time you see him talk, they seem to joke about, I don't know, he seems like a funny guy.
Yeah.
I'm projecting my own feelings about how I would love to hang out with him onto the team, but it just seems like
Right.
he's that kind of guy to me.
Gotcha.
Anyways.
Our very own Jason Bukalas wrote an article on Sportsnet.ca on Matthew Knies and where he projects him to be, and talked about perhaps his next contract. Do you guys want to get into that after we finish with the doctor?
After
Or-
the doc, we'll have time.
Yeah.
And also talk about why Josh Levo should come back to be a Maple Leaf.
Oh my God.
I know he is 2 goals from the KHL scoring record, KHL goals record.
47 and 60 or something?
48 and 60 games is the record. He has 47 and 2 games to go.
Um,
And he's only 31 years old. And
he's going to be the star of the Trump-Putin Cup.
Whose record is he breaking? Is he following him around?
Sergei Moisakin is whose record.
Yes, of
Moisakin.
course.
You guys, he's
Moisey.
actually, he is a established scoring leader in the K.
Sergey.
Okay.
It's my first time I've heard.
Let's take a quick break.
Moisenator.
And when we return,
Moisey.
your favorite medical segment in now podcast history. Dr. Jason Smith will get into Gabriel Landeskog and the odds. Okay. You want to do a Bet365 odd? How much of a chance do you give Gabriel Landeskog to resume his career?
I don't know.
Save it.
Oh, okay.
Save it for the break.
Okay.
All right, Dr. Jason Smith, Doctor, up next. Welcome back to the program. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee. The doctor will see you now. Let's welcome in Dr. Jason Smith, orthopedic surgeon to the Stars. How's it going, buddy?
Going great, man. Beautiful day.
I know.
Good to be here.
I know. There's a fairly big story when it comes to a certain player and heart and soul guy. Everybody knows Gabriel Landeskog has not played since they've won the Stanley Cup. You know, Doc, when we think of knee injuries, we think of anterior cruciate ligament, meniscus, MCL, but I have no idea what cartilage transplant surgery would mean, not only to a hockey player, but to anybody here. And that's all we really know. But what can you tell us about this type of surgery, this injury?
Yeah. So and this is a big one, right? So let's go back a second, right? So in 2021, this guy signs, this 8-year, $56 million contract, $7 million a year. He's, the face of the team, going to be the captain, like unbelievable. And then in 2022, he's putting up good numbers. He's having a good season. But then in March, so close to the playoffs, this guy has, the knee cleanup surgery, has surgery on his knee, makes it back for the playoffs and wins a Stanley Cup. Like unbelievable. Like this guy, is on top of the world. But, doesn't make the start of the next season. And then in October, has another knee surgery, misses the entire next season.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's going like, what are you going to do? Like he tried to get back. He's had the simple surgeries, these knee scopes, these clean outs, like whatever you're doing for cartilage or whatever you're doing for his knee. And so then in May 2023, he undergoes a cartilage transplant. It's like, so let's be honest. This is a Hail Mary, the simple things, the injections, the cleanups, these things that we hear about all the time, the guys get back from. This hasn't worked. So they're like, well, you're at the start of an 8-year contract. Like, you can't just pack it in here. Like, what are we going to do? So now you start throwing Hail Marys. So what he had done, and I don't have any very specific knowledge from this, I'm not his doc. I didn't talk to the surgeon. I don't know. But what I think he had was, so a piece of cadaver bone with the cartilage on it was put into his knee to replace the area of the injured cartilage. Jeez. So that's the procedure that is done in, sports, in life, when you have these big cartilage defects that the simple stuff just doesn't help. But, that's May 2023. And now, like, we're almost 3 years since this guy has played.
Right.
So we want to get into the issues. Like, let's talk about this. So as far as I know, that's what's been done. And, that's a bit of a Hail Mary at the best of times, let alone for a professional hockey player.
So is there risk then with him coming back? Now, I'm going to say maybe the most ignorant thing, but like cadaver bone is fine. Does it hold up as well as had it been his own bone? What is he going to be dealing with as he gets back here?
That's the thing, right? Like, these things are at this point, they're like coin flips.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you hope, because the bone has to heal, and then the cartilage over top of it has to be robust. And he's got to somehow get his body, his quad, his core, his everything back. And then he's got to figure out how to play hockey after 3 years. Like, I missed 2 Saturday skates, I'm useless, like let alone 3 years and trying to get back to professional hockey. So, I mean, I am cheering for this guy, my God, because if this guy gets back, that's amazing.
Right.
So, Doc, we've seen videos of Landeskog going up and down the ice, and he looks okay. He looks like everybody else, but can you replicate anything remotely close to a game when you're in a corner and you got a guy 240 pounds and he's pushing off of you, and now the torque is all on that knee?
Yeah, until you see that, you don't know. Yeah, he can rip up and down the ice all day long. But, the guy plays a hard game. Power forward. He's in the corners. He's driving the net. He's not just coasting around the center of the ice. Like, this guy's going to have to play his game where he's going to have that 240-pound defenseman and push off of him. He's going to have to drive him to the net. And you don't know how these things hold up. Like, in general, we put these things in. So, yeah, you can go walk to the golf course and you can go do your yoga on Saturday. Like, that's where we're putting these in a lot, and we're relatively confident that they can hold up. But asking this to hold up in a professional hockey player at 32 years old, like, again, I am cheering for this guy, and I hope he makes it back, because, I mean, he's got a mountain to climb.
Yeah, I imagine he can't go to Farm Boy and select the finest cartilage from the former Olympian or something. It's just kind of, you get what you get and you don't get upset. So
that's it. Yeah, you're right. So the number of variables there, the number of things that have to go right to get in the right cartilage, it's the right shape and size for you. The bone integrates perfectly. Like, all these things that have to go right for this to happen, there's a ton of them.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So just one more for me, and that is, if by chance this thing does work for him, does this change the way you guys look at this or this surgery? Or do you look at it and go, like you just mentioned, all the stars aligned in this scenario, but that certainly doesn't mean the next guy, it'll be the same?
Yeah, like, I wouldn't be suddenly telling GMs to sign every guy that's having this procedure. If this guy makes it back, all the planets aligned and worked out. It's hopeful for other people, and these one-off stories, are always super motivating and gives guys hope. But I'm not banking on this one yet. No.
Well, like you said, Doc, we wish him the best of luck, because he is one of the good guys there, and he was fun to watch, and he's just was in the heart of his career, and we'd love to see it all come back one more time for him. Doc, thanks for doing this, pal. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime.
All right. Okay.
Thanks, buddy.
Hold on.
Okay.
We didn't open up the show with
I know.
Doctor.
Doctor. And doctor.
Doctor.
All right.
Okay, now
We're
you're good to
now.
go back to doing
Doctor.
surgery or whatever you want to do. All right. Jason Smith, orthopedic
Great
surgeon.
stuff. Wow.
So
That's insane.
Oh yeah, no, it's crazy what they can do, and
I blew up my ACL
Yep.
in 1984.
Mhm.
And
Back then they use electrical tape to fix it.
Elmer's glue.
I had a cowboy for a doc, just like wild,
Buck knife in
wild
a holster.
west. Don't worry about kid. I'll look after you.
Yeah.
And that was the extent of what I knew what was going to happen to my knee.
Yeah, I'll look after you.
I'll look after you.
Oh my God.
I get
Is it still hurt
I get to
today,
the
or-
Philadelphia hospital. I'm on the gurney or whatever you call that thing. And right before they put me under, he just holds up what looks like a chicken breast and says, "Hey, kid, look at your new knee."
Oh.
And it was a cadaver,
Yeah.
an Achilles tendon.
Mhm.
Wake up and really have no idea what just happened. And it was a fairly new procedure at the time where they take a cadaver and build your new knee.
Mhm.
And at no point
Abracadabra.
at no point was there ever a discussion with me or my parents who ended up coming down.
Yeah.
It was just like,
You need a knee. I got the knee.
yeah, I got the knee for you.
Yeah, what are you going to do about it?
And apparently as I went years later, even after retirement, I kind of researched it, and there was quite a percentage of rejections
Oh, yeah.
to foreign objects.
Just having your knee
In your
reject
knee.
another knee, yeah.
And like to Doc's point, the stars aligned for me because I never had dealt with any swelling.
Yeah.
It's never given me any pain. I ran the New York Marathon 10 years ago on the knee.
What a cowboy you had.
You
And
ran the New York Marathon 10 years ago?
yeah, I think so. Yeah, 47.
Wow.
And I don't know, maybe I was just lucky.
Mhm.
But and to this day, my surgical knee
Mhm.
is tighter and stronger than my good knee.
Yeah. You know, that's great. That's cool that yours worked out. This Landeskog thing here, I think it's good to have just had the doc on for people to get perspective that this is not a guy who it's just, okay, the normal thing has recovered and it's ready to go and you're going to go back. It's like, should he do this or should he not? He's young. He wants to do it. It'll torture him for the rest of his life if he doesn't try to get back.
Exactly.
And so he's taking a chance because he wants this and he wants to see if he can do it. There is real risk involved, and it's a tremendous story. And I think he's got a documentary out. I think I mentioned before. He's if it's not out, it's coming
So
out.
they're following him, training for this and coming back?
Trying to get back.
Yeah.
There was one for a tennis player, maybe Murray. Either way, coming back, a similar thing. Who made it back to tennis? So yeah, he's ready to go, and obviously he's a foremost worker. Everyone says he's still a tank, and he's puts in the hours. So
And even if you do this, you make this effort and you get back and like you're able to play 8 minutes in 2 games or whatever, and they go on and they win a cup, you're part of it. You were
Yeah.
the captain, like Stamkos.
and then you know though. Then you know
Then you
if
know.
you could, you tried.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and that maybe is the best point, JB, is that you now have at least full closure. It's not going to be like 15 or 20 years from now if I would have stuck with it or if I just would have tried harder or, whatever.
Mhm.
It's like this will be definitive one way or another. He'll
Yeah.
know for sure whether or not this ever had a chance or not. And that may
Until
help him
Nick
moving
Cousins
forward.
goes low and submarines his knee in the final.
No,
Oh, Nick Cousins in the final?
No.
Senzer in the final?
Hey, who
What the
knows?
hell is happening
Who
here?
knows? I forgot he wasn't on Florida.
In the meantime,
Nice.
Matthew Knies. Okay. Jason Bukala wrote a story on sportsnet.ca
Yep.
kind of outlining maybe a couple of options that the Leafs might take or look at in regards to signing him to a new contract.
Yeah, so he kind of laid out, that Knies is a rare player to have in your roster. I think it's funny, that he mentions and other people have mentioned, like other GMs had interest in Knies at the deadline. It's like, yeah. He's 22, 6'3", and he's going to score 30 goals. No kidding.
Yeah.
So the point is, for him is, what do you do with Knies in terms of his contract? He has laid out a couple potential ones, a 5-year extension and an 8-year extension. The 5-year, he's got it about $7.5 million. The 8-year at 8 to 8.5. His suggestion is that you sign him first, which kind of sets the framework for the rest of the roster decisions. Kind of figure it out from there. It's a big one for the Leafs that they get this guy under contract, and you can
Okay.
make a case that it's
I
priority.
love Jason Bukala on the show,
Mhm.
but I do not agree with him with
I bet you think it's the Marner contract.
no. Well, I just it's not anybody's contract, but it does come into play.
Yeah.
But like, what's the hurry
Mhm.
on Matthew Knies? He is restricted. He's locked in. The only thing you got to worry about, I guess, or have people mention is that he could be offer cheated.
That's real. That's very real as a
Okay.
concern. Teams see the
But
Leafs.
let's just talk about this for a second.
Sure.
Okay. What is he going to get offered
Mhm.
that the Toronto Maple Leafs will walk away from?
It won't happen.
It won't happen.
But someone else would get to dictate a number you don't want to give them. Now he's making 10.
What is that number? Who in their right
Yeah.
mind would sign Matthew Knies to $10 million?
See, this is the thing that teams who want to properly use offer sheets need to do. They should offer him 15 on a 1 or 2 year deal.
Matthew
On a
Knies,
one-
$15 million.
I'm telling you, it's not because he's worth 15. Because no one's going to pay him 15. So you find a team who's up against the cap. You do a 1 year monster deal, which then you have him in your organization. You have the chance to resign him. You say we'll give you a more normal contract after that.
You got you'll got to pay him $15 million every year.
What do you mean? No, you don't.
Then what are you paying him?
You could renegotiate after that and
What?
say, all
But-
right, here's your next deal because we hooked you up on that one.
But I'll arb you and keep my $15 million. Why do I have to go back?
Well, because you go ahead and arb me. You're not worth 15. We'll put you up against every player in the league.
And then you won't match the arb. You'll walk away from it, and he'll walk.
But this is the thing this is how
It's
you
like-
utilize offer sheets is that you throw a big number to get him in your org.
No one's going to throw $10 or $15 million at this guy. I like him. He's a good player. But do you even know what he is ultimately?
No, and that's. But I'm saying in terms of offer sheets, you don't want to put yourself at the mercy of other teams.
The last offer sheet that I guess we can remember is Kotkaniemi, maybe.
Holloway and Broberg just got poached.
That's a different beast.
Why?
Because it was like they didn't know what they had, and it was like $2 million.
Well, it happened.
And 5, which is still reasonable.
They gave them contracts the Oilers weren't willing to match.
But they were dumb. Oilers were dumb. They
Dumb.
should have matched
Super
it, and then
dumb.
it would have been over.
Yes.
So that's just a bad mistake on the Oilers' part. The Leafs wouldn't make that
But
bad
the point
mistake.
is, Kip, if you're going to match whatever anyone offers anyway, just give him a contract that you like.
Or give him one that he doesn't like. He's not going anywhere. Give him $4 million at 3 years. Give him, or tell him to stay home. Can I tell you something? Every time the Leafs have given 22-year-olds or 23-year-olds $10 million, it's come back to bite them in the ass.
Yes, it has.
Okay?
God,
Stop it. Stop it.
Listen.
Ain't that the truth?
But I'm all in. Listen, I'm all in on a
Enough.
short deal. Give him a short
Enough.
deal.
Hey, Matthews.
Just pick the number yourself.
You're restricted. There's good money waiting for you, but this is what we're offering you. Take it or stay home.
Yeah. That's fine. If you decide he's the guy you're going to dig in, but you don't have to hose him.
No, you're not hosing
contracts
him.
going up $1 zillion. You're losing
You're
two
not
guys
hosing.
making $22 million.
Hey.
Say, here's 5 times 7. Let's go.
Here's 4 times 2 or 4 times 3 or 4.5 times 3. Go out there and put together 75 points. You're with Austin Matthews, and I will give you the world, my friend.
I
Okay.
don't know how many years till he would be
How many
UFA.
points? How many points is he going to end up with?
I don't know, 40. No idea.
Well, 40's okay. Tell me 40, and I'm like going to punch you in the head
Is it 50?
because you want to give him $10 million.
I don't want to give him
55.
$10 million. I'm saying
He
that's
has
how you
40
get him on an offer sheet.
Book wants to give him 8.5.
Well, if you give him 8 times that, it might look pretty decent. That's
He's
what
got
guys like
44 points so far this year in
So he's going to
63
end up with
games.
60.
generously. Call it
Generously?
53.
Minus 3.
Yeah.
Okay, he's going to end up with 55. Okay, I mean, it was Austin and Marner all this year. Shouldn't it be 75 for $8.5 million?
I think you can totally do a short-term deal.
Yes.
And I personally think
Bridge.
Bridge.
Yeah, okay. Enjoy the one that comes after that one, but
Bridge.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Cap's going to $115 million. Bridge. All right. Didn't know we were going to get into that.
I love when you guys.
All right. We're going to take a deep breath on Matthew Knies. When we go national, Jason York up next. Sens, Montreal Canadiens. Who's going to get that last spot in the East? Plenty more when we return to Real Kyper and Bourne. All right, let's take it national on the Real Kyper and Bourne show. We are live on Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver and Sportsnet 960 in Calgary. This hour of Real Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee. In a couple of minutes, we'll welcome in Jason York, co-host of the Coming In Hot Sens podcast, which included a loss last night to the Montreal Canadiens. Why are you looking at me like I got 3 heads? Oh, man. What do you do between our Leaf Edition show
Can I tell you what
and
I was
get
doing?
ready for the national show? You have one job.
Can I tell you what I was doing? I was perusing Ticketmaster for tickets to the home opener next week
Ooh,
for the Toronto
yeah.
Blue Jays since
Yeah,
we're off next Thursday. I was perusing Ticketmaster, and I forgot.
And you find decent prices?
Pretty sold out. Pretty sold out.
That's good.
Yeah, lots of people
Well,
there.
that's good for
Okay.
people upstairs.
Plenty of good seats available on Friday, but lots of not many tickets left for the home opener. So I was just having a look, and then I forgot to take. I'll buy coffees tomorrow. Sorry, guys.
So
I won't.
if we had would we put a Montreal Canadian jersey?
We don't have one.
Don't have one.
No, we don't have
Do
one.
we know anyone in Montreal
No
like us there?
way they're sending us a jersey.
Marty St. Louis would send us a jersey. I think.
After
Would
you,
he? We're
Yeah,
pretty-
I think
pretty
he would.
rough on him.
after you cooked them for running
I
up and down
didn't
the
cook.
stairs with Sean
No,
McKee.
I cooked Sportsnet. I didn't cook Marty.
Fair,
Marty's
fair.
just being a team guy.
Yeah.
Fair. I mean, what a story. I gotta tell you.
This is incredible. They were 8 points out of the last wild card spot at Christmas, I think. Or
I gotta be
early
honest with you
December.
guys. I'm done trying to figure it out. I really can't do it anymore, especially this year. This year is
your job.
super weird.
Yeah.
Okay, because we watched a very either tired or bland or bad Calgary Flame Hockey Club in Toronto
Yeah.
on Monday night, and then go into New York City and keep the Rangers
Desperate
to
Rangers
like
team.
a handful of shots,
Yeah.
like 3/4 of the game in.
It felt like
How can that be?
I don't
How
know.
can that be the same team?
they left Toronto, and I was like thinking to myself, like, this is the beginning of the end for the Flames.
I was like, they may lose 5 in a row here.
Yeah.
It felt like.
May not win again.
They just go and take it to the Rangers in Madison Square Garden.
And then they go in there and win. So, like,
Coronado looked good last night.
What a night, by the way. Montreal's dead to rights to the Sens, comes back and wins.
Mhm.
Vancouver put the boots to the Jets, where I was in here talking about the all vibes matchup being flipped.
and what did we say? Like,
Waste 8 days, I said,
This
for
is-
that series.
this game, like, has to be one of those where if you could possibly just plant the seed in the event that you play Winnipeg in the first round. I think last night kind of did that.
I think so.
No?
I mean, well, listen, it's you go into a series being like, all right, we've beat them before. We know what it looks like.
I mean, you're on pace to have one of your greatest seasons ever, the Jets. You're clearly going to win that division. Hellebuck have to play every night.
Yeah, I see your point.
Like,
you
have
get
they-
a couple, a little bit more rest. The guy's
have
one of
they
those
learned-
likes to play guys.
Have they learned not very much in the past few years?
I
Where,
think-
like, the fatigue could be a bit of a factor in the first round?
He's gone so far now. I don't even know, if whether
Played
Scott
53
Arniel
games already, boys.
or Shovel Dayoff or even Mark Chipman can go to him and say, Connor, come here. I'm going to tell you how it's
Yeah.
going to be now. Right?
yeah, but
I think, I don't know. If he's not on board, if he's like, I want to play.
right.
It's like, what are you going to tell him? No?
Well, you might be, yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, I know you want
But you're
to.
not
That's great.
doing
I
it-
love your
but you're-
drive.
You're not
but
doing it in March. If you're going to establish
Would've been
that
earlier?
type of possible pecking order,
Mhm.
you would have done it in November or December. You don't surprise a guy by having him call every start he wants
Mhm.
to now no.
I mean, he's unbelievable. He's having an amazing season. He's played 53 of their 69 games they've played so far this season.
Yeah.
To me, if I'm a Jets fan, I'm just saying, can we just maybe back off this guy a little bit? Let Comrie get in there and get a couple touches here and there just towards the end to see if that works for the first round. Because last night was a little bit spooky if I'm a Jets fan.
There is something. There's a conversation to be had about
Jets talk is a little negative today, by the way.
how
Sorry, boys.
how much power these players who have the bigger contracts than their coaches should have. Because yes, they deserve all the money and yada yada yada. But when you're a team who knows what's best for your team, your coach still has to be able to make the call. So like I'm thinking here in Toronto where Mark Giordano in his last year in the NHL was saying, I got to play. I need to keep the engine revving. I got to play. And it was like, you don't have to let him. Just because he's a pro and a veteran and a good guy, you don't have to let him. John Tavares, he comes out of the Four Nations break looking great. He's fresh. If down the stretch you're safely in a spot and you say, you're going to watch 2 games, and he says, I don't want to, tough bounce.
I'm the coach.
Right.
And I say,
You need to be able to have that authority.
I think I'm not saying that you're wrong, but I am saying that like now's not the time.
Why not? This is when he needs the rest. It's before playoffs. It is the time.
Now is the time. They almost have 100 points already. They're established.
You have to program these guys. You just don't hit them over the head. You can't go.
You can, though.
Yeah, you can, but it may not be the best idea.
To your point,
because
he's having a business
these
season. You
are,
want to take him out of rhythm.
They're nucleus guys. You are at the mercy of your stars, and that's why there's different rules for different guys. But I just don't see anybody in the Jets organization calling Connor over here and going, we got to reassess the next 15 games. You're only playing 6 of them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that ain't flying now.
No, there's got to be some balance there. If you can get him, I don't know, at least get 5, 6 starts for the backup down the stretch.
In his last 3 seasons, in 21-22, 66 games he played. In 22-23, he played 64.
You need him for 2 months of playoffs.
And the year before this year, he played 60. And now he's about to play 53, plus 4 in the Four Nations. Well, 3 in the Four Nations. He didn't play against Sweden in the meaningless one. Like,
the Winnipeg Jets, we need a cup.
Yes.
We're not trying to win the first round. We need this guy to be able to go 2 months of playoff hockey.
Yeah. So
what do they have? How many games they got left?
they played their 69th game last night, so that would mean they have 13 games remaining.
Okay. So 9?
Give me 8. He can play 8.
Okay.
I'll allow him 8.
9 games.
They have a nice every other day schedule for a little bit there. A little break. The last 5 days of the season, they have 1 game, and it's Anaheim at home. That's nice. The Jets should win a playoff round for sure. For sure.
We're just not sure if it's a wasted 8 days for their opponents.
Well,
10?
Vancouver did scare them a
12?
little bit. The Blues, by the way, still sniffing around on the heels of the Vancouver Canucks, Calgary Flames, 2 points back, and Utah with a devastating loss last night.
Did you dare call for standings? Is our show progressed to the point where we can call standings up?
I don't know. Let's see. Can we get this? Yeah!
Oh!
This is great. What a world.
All right.
But as you can see, 2 points separate the Canucks from the Blues and the Flames. The Canucks and the Blues from the Flames, and then 2 more to Utah.
Yeah, Utah
Ducks.
had a bad loss the other night.
Last night. Yeah, they weren't close.
No.
That felt like a team, the Oilers, who are, I think Ekholm talked about it yesterday, being like, we're starting to tighten up our details, heading towards the playoffs. It felt like there was a finger heading towards the switch for the Oilers.
It did.
And last
getting
night,
Hyman and
they were
Ekholm
just-
back, it's like that's
it was
different.
no comparison.
No.
Like they
Utah
just
had
ran
the same game Calgary had in Toronto,
They did.
That's exactly right.
which means
But what that says to me
they'll
is,
come back and win.
but those teams are overextended, right? They're like, okay, we need Logan Cooley every night to be awesome. All right, we need great showings from Zary. Like these are big asks for these guys over long stretches of time. All right, who we got in this hour here, Kip? We got Jason York coming up next. Talk Sens.
Yep.
The
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not sure if they
Dylan
could be
Cousins Sens.
totally disappointed with the loss last night. Of course, you're trying to win every game, and it looked good there for a while for Ottawa up, but they've been on such a roll here lately.
And it's true that, like, as a fan, you're like, is it all falling apart? It's like, yeah, every team the ones you're chasing, everyone's going to lose some games here. Too bad it was that one last night. But so we shared that Dylan Cousins graphic today. What's it been, 5 games since he's been a Senator?
Mm-hmm.
First on the Sens in scoring chances, first in slot shots on net, first in hits, first in faceoff wins, second in controlled entries. And you tweeted, new Sam Reinhart just dropped.
Yeah. I just
He's not.
he didn't have a great night last night.
Never going to score 50.
Cousins. Okay, so he's not Sam Reinhart, but can he?
But he can be impactful.
Like Brady Tkachuk in terms of like physical. Oh, Brady can score 40 or 50, but can he be a lower scoring Brady Tkachuk? Because he's a big dude. He wasn't playing overly aggressive with Buffalo, but he has potential to be a disturber out there. Stay healthy, be physical, get points.
Yeah, he definitely gives Ottawa a different look. But if you don't ask me, let's ask Jason York, who joins us right now. Yorkie, what's going on, pal?
Kyper, things are good, man. Things are good.
Things are
Sorry I'm late.
things are things are really, really good in Ottawa, and I know a little disappointment off of a blown lead last night, but overall, like, can we just point this to Dylan Cousins and the feel and the change of that, or was this was in the makings for a while here and just needed to just find a way to get slotted?
It's a great question. I think it's a little bit of both, Kipper. I think, and you know this, when you're on a team and you make a move at the deadline, it just kind of energizes your group, right? You go, we just made a move. Steve Stales management, they believe in us. Then they brought in Zetterlund as well. So I just think it was a message sent to the group. And then add in the fact, Allmark started playing extremely well, got healthy. And the group as well, like when they were on that little bit of a skid, fellas, they had no Pinto. Norris was still on the team back there. He was hurt as well. Stützle was banged up. I think they got healthy. And once you get healthy, the goalie starts playing well. You make a trade. Things just start to fall in place.
The Allmark thing has been one of the real nice, I don't want to say surprises. He's just been awesome for the Senators here. Does that change something, just having a guy you're like, okay, we are finally solid back there?
Well, Barney, what have you guys been saying about the Leafs all those years when we didn't have goaltending?
Right. It's so frustrating.
It's like, I always say this, show me a good team and I'll usually show you a good goalie. Show me a coach that's getting fired and I'll show you a goalie that's had a tough stretch. Especially the playoffs. You get to the playoffs and it basically becomes a game of goalie. So I think with Allmark, he's a really calm guy, fellas. And when you're a younger team, even when he wasn't playing, you have that calm influence around the group. He just settles you down. Like you just know you screw up, he's gonna make a save. And how about that save against Toronto? Like maybe the best save I've seen in a long, long time, that glove save. But he's just super calm, guys. He's super calm. He's super confident, and that's contagious on your group when you got a goalie that kind of carries himself that way.
You're watching and listening to Jason York, former National Hockey League co-host of Coming In Hot Sens podcast. So if we look at the season that Brady Tkachuk's having, or the development of Brady Tkachuk, what did Four Nations do for him that you see now?
Wow. Made him pretty popular, didn't it?
Yeah.
He was doing all the talk shows.
But anything on the ice you see, the way he carries himself, or is he gone to another level here?
He did. When he came back from Four Nations, he took a couple games off. He was a little bit banged up, and rightfully so. He was playing like a man possessed at the Four Nations. But then when he came back, he was at a different level. And I'll say the same thing about Jake Sanderson. And Barney, I know you're a big Sanderson guy, and I think somebody might have tipped you off about him back in September on the show. And I remember everybody was laughing at me when I said Sanderson's going to be a hell of a player. But Tkachuk's he's always going to be that guy that plays on the edge. But he's added an element to his game this year, guys. He can score from distance now. Like there's been a bunch of times this year when he's just not scoring from that 5-foot radius around the crease. Like he's got a real nice release when he's on his offside. He's an underrated playmaker. Add all that in, and like you watch his board battles, he's able to go in and strip guys with his stick. He's physical. He's just got a lot of different layers to his game. Add in the fact he's probably the most competitive guy I've watched in the NHL in a long time. It just makes him, he's just a friggin' lot to play against. And I'm excited if Ottawa gets in the playoffs. People saw we did at Four Nations. There's just not many guys in the league like now, Kyper and Borny. Like how many guys in the league besides Tom Wilson, maybe a few other guys that play that style? And that's what just makes him a unique player, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So what, the progression from being not a very good team to a good team to a playoff team and up and up and up is, they're all kind of progressive steps here. Does it not feel to you like the Senators are done being in that kind of bottom half of the league? Like even a bad Senators team is pretty good at this point, Yorkie. Like, just speaking as someone watching them, even their B game is pretty good these days.
You know what they do, Barney? And this is kind of what I think the coaching staffs, even when they don't have their best stuff, and I didn't think they had their best stuff last night against Montreal.
Right.
The way they play, they kind of hang around in games. They don't really beat themselves anymore. Keep it close. Always give yourself a chance. Getting key saves at key moments. They got some depth now, so they've got some depth throughout their lineup. Amadio's starting to chip in. Pinto's been great this year. Ridley Gregg. So they haven't had this kind of depth in a long time. They haven't had the goaltending. But I just think the system that Travis Green has these guys playing, like they bought in. So, like I said, they just systematically, they're a much better team than they were. And it took a while. Like this just didn't happen at the beginning of the season. They took their lumps. But to me, it's just they hang around. So many teams will shoot themselves in the foot. And Ottawa was guilty of this the last 7 years. But they've done a nice job of changing how they play, buying into what the coaches have been selling them, and it's paid off.
Yorkie, moments ago you said if the Senators make the playoffs, buddy, like to steal a Maple Leaf fan's line, 18-wheeler off the road would have to happen for the New York. Like huge favor by Calgary beating the Rangers. Like how do you see the focus and the Ottawa Senators here to close this thing out? Because like they've got to be all of a sudden just starting to really build for that first round. I don't see them missing.
I don't either, Kyper. I don't. But hey, let's really play the games, right?
Yeah.
They've got, like, I went and looked at all their games they got remaining in their schedule. They've got 3 games remaining against Columbus. I think 2 at home and 1 in Columbus. Those are going to be massive because Columbus is still hanging around. They're still hanging around. Detroit's still hanging around. The Islanders are all of a sudden back in the picture. So there's a lot of teams in striking distance. So for me, they got a tough one tomorrow. They got Colorado in time, who I think, like the changes Colorado's made, like they got to be considered the favorites right now, if not the top 3 out of the best defensemen in the league, arguably McKinnon, best forward. So their schedule is advantageous, a lot of home games, but it's not going to be a layup. Like I do think they're going to make it, but I think there's going to be a dogfight right till the end.
Yeah, it's funny looking at it now, Yorkie. In terms of like playoff teams and non-playoff teams, they do have a pretty favorable schedule. I think 5 of their next 7 after they 2 good teams in a row, and then it's 5 straight non-playoff teams. So you would like to think that that they get up there. How do you like their odds as an upset team? Like there was no lock they'd make playoffs. If they're going to draw Washington, Florida, something like that, how do you think do they have a chance?
Are Sammy's scared of them?
I'm scared of anybody.
I saw the clip with Sammy last week when you guys were talking about this exact subject.
Yeah.
I don't want to see the Ottawa Senators.
Don't want to get a hot team with good vibes. Those young first-time playoff pushes, whew.
Because you're playing with house money. You're playing with house money. Like how the Washington Capitals going to feel when the playoffs start and it's just zeros across the board for everybody. All that good you did in the regular season, that don't matter anymore. That's why I love the playoffs. It's like you get in, you got an opportunity. All I'll say about that is what I said about Tkachuk, he's the captain, he's the heartbeat. He's going to be a problem for some teams in the playoffs. They've got a pretty good top 4 that can move the puck well. And if Allmark plays like Allmark can, they're going to be a handful for somebody. So I wouldn't want to play them. I think absolutely they could upset somebody because they're playing with house money. Like this team's goal was to make the playoffs and just see what happens. So it's a nice position to be in.
Even if you beat Ottawa, like Brady's going to hurt somebody on that team.
Yeah, you're not getting through a Sen series feeling great. He's a maniac.
Yorkie, how do you see it playing out? What did you see last night from the Montreal Canadiens? And is this the way you see it finishing out? Can the Rangers, Islanders possibly get in there? Columbus, or is last night a look of how it's going to close out?
I've got a hard time betting against Shesterkin. Like we just talked about how we just talked about goalies and how important they are coming down the stretch. So if you look at those remaining teams and who would you bet on if you were looking at teams with the best goaltenders that are kind of vying for those last 2 playoff spots? So I look at his body of work. Like you remember that series that the Rangers beat Carolina in, and Rod Brindamore after the series was like,
Yeah.
I don't know. We should have won. We couldn't score on this guy.
Yeah, this is the greatest 4 games,
Remember that?
Any team's ever lost. This is the greatest any 4 team has ever played losing.
It's right.
Yeah. Like I don't love the Rangers, how they play. Like I watch a couple of their broadcasts. Even their broadcasts were crapping on them for how inconsistent they play. But a good goalie can just make up for so much. I know teams have a couple games in hand, but I'm still sticking with the Rangers to get that second spot. But I'll tell you this: after watching Montreal last night, it wouldn't surprise me because they have bought into what Marty St. Louis is selling. Like that third line last night for Montreal with Anderson, Gallagher, and Dvorak, man, they were full marks. Really tough line to play against.
Mm-hmm. So everyone's talking about the Cousins edition at the deadline. How about Zetterlund? I think he's playing on the 4th line. Guy who scored 20, and he's a young guy in the league. Probably a surprising slot for him. Has it been working out?
He's been fine, Borny. Yeah. Like a totally different role, like coming in. And the problem is for him, like you come into a situation where the team's red hot, and Ottawa's third line probably was their best line when he came to town. Amadio's on fire right now. Ridley Gregg's playing some great hockey. Pinto as well. And you're not breaking up the first line with Brady Tkachuk, Giroux, and Stützle. And then you have Cousins and Batherson who are playing some fantastic hockey, and David Perron, who's also playing his best hockey. So I think he's going to have to bide his time, but I think he's been fine. He's getting some looks on the second unit. He's been physical, but that's what happens. Like when you come from San Jose, you slot differently on a different team, but I think he'll be fine, and he'll get his opportunity. And when he does, it's up to him to make the most of it.
Sorry, I just want to follow up. Giroux's season this year, has he maintained his level of effectiveness?
If you watch him in games, Barney, I know the point totals are down. He still controls the pace of play when he's out there. Like his hockey sense is still right up there with the top guys in the league. Passing ability. The thing people like with Ottawa too, they evenly split their power plays. So your first unit, your second unit, and Drew's been on both. So your point totals are going to be down a little bit compared to other teams. Like if you look at teams like the Oilers, well, their guys stay the whole 2 minutes. Ottawa's a little bit differently. So people forget how much that impacts point totals, but I think Giroux's been fine, competitive as ever. He's been great for the young guys. I still think he's got lots left in the tank. I really do.
Yorkie, just one more for me anyways, regarding Travis Green and the job that he's done. There was times when I thought, is this guy going to get back in the league? And I just watch him. I watch his demeanor. I watch his post games. He's got something going on with this hockey club right now. The connection right now is showing.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I'll give you a great example. We just had Timmy Stützle on our show, and one of the things Timmy said was, our coach isn't afraid to call somebody out and tell you when you're not doing something right, and sit you down. And he'll also tell you when you're doing something well. And you guys both, to me, those are the best coaches. They just don't shit on the same guys. They'll give it to guys equally. And he's been all business, but he's also good at giving guys a pat on the back. And the biggest thing, though, he got guys to buy in to playing a 200-foot game. Stützle told us on our show today, Greener actually called him in the summer numerous times to talk about expectations, what he wanted this year, what goal setting, all this. So he was really prepared coming into this situation in Ottawa, and it's paying off. I think he's done a real nice job with this group.
So far, so good. Maybe the Ottawa Senators heading to the postseason.
Yes, let's do it.
Yorkie, great stuff as always, my friend. What's Dog Dad? What is that?
What kind of dog you got?
I don't know. I got this for Christmas from my kids. I'm a dog dad. I got the golden doodle.
Golden doodle.
I live in a neighborhood where the golden doodle is the official dog of our neighborhood. Everyone's got a doodle. Everyone. I don't know about Toronto, but there's doodles. It's like doodles everywhere, fellas.
No one wants their dog to shed. That's all. That's all it is.
Can we stop cussing on our show?
He said shed.
Oh, I thought. Look, I'm nervous.
Shedding.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Great stuff, Yorkie. Thanks for doing this, pal.
Always a pleasure, fellas.
Thanks, buddy.
Did he swear?
No, he's talking about shedding.
Shed.
Oh, I thought he said the other word.
No,
And then I thought you said the other word.
never in my life.
Yeah, he was talking about that clip.
We're not allowed to swear anymore.
No, he used to swear like
When no
once
one
a
listened
week.
to the show.
Well, that was when I was off for like 2 years.
The first year of our show, you swore twice a week.
No, I did not.
Yes, on purpose too.
Yeah, like
you were
just
looking to give it some juice.
Yeah.
And who else swore? Someone dropped an F-bomb.
Stumpy had a couple.
Stumpy, Ally Afraidy,
Brett Hall.
Brett Hall.
We used to have
We had a blue show.
We should have had a swear jar that year. We would have made a fortune.
He talked about that clip that, like, he referenced the clip of me talking about the Sens.
Mhm.
Oh, they were so excited.
Sens fans love that you were a little nervous.
Oh, yeah, but it's like, oh, they're talking about us on the big national show.
That's the
Better clip it.
patronizing. thing
Better
I've
clip it.
ever
They're
heard.
talking about us.
Yeah,
It's like,
well,
oh,
they're,
yeah.
they're scary. They're legit.
Yeah, great.
That-
Good for them.
You guys see Montreal getting
First
in?
time in
Good for
8 years.
Happy Gilmore.
Good first time in 8 years they've been somewhat threatening. Congrats.
Happy Gilmore too, by the way.
I've asked that question to a couple of people, and he's the third. Yorkie was the third person to say Rangers with Shesterkin,
Mhm.
and he was like, couldn't even believe the Rangers were in the hockey game last night against Calgary. Like, just the thought of still getting a point
Mhm.
was just totally on Shesterkin here.
Right.
But they were so bad last night in front of him.
They were. And what's crazy is you look at this team and it's like, surely Columbus isn't the team. And surely, Montreal, no one thought they would be there. But he was like, who else has a good goalie who's in the mix? And I was like, Sorokin.
Oh, yeah.
Have you been following Sorokin, who's been like the hottest goalie in the league for a while?
Yeah.
If Patrick Waugh gets that Islanders team in the playoffs, I don't know, standing O.
They're right there.
Hold on, just one more for me. Montreal.
Mhm.
No? Still long shot for you?
They got as good a chance as anyone. They really do. And they have some older guys who are like, here you go. Yeah, so they're currently in a spot, but I just feel like you have to have a couple of veteran guys, and Suzuki and Caulfield are really good. And then you got, Gallagher and Anderson.
Yeah,
and
Suzuki's been
Savard and
so,
Matheson.
so good.
Has been. He's playing very well.
He's very good. But I just somehow when this team's ready to contend, I don't see Suzuki and Newhook
1-2 down the middle.
1-2 down the middle. I don't. Like
Dvorak had 4 points last night.
they see for me, that's a team that should have gone after Dylan Cousins
Yeah, absolutely agree.
with Suzuki.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure.
Yeah, then you're starting to build
when
down
this
the middle.
when this team contends for a Stanley Cup, I'm not sure Suzuki's number one centerman.
No, you're
He's
probably
a
right.
fantastic number two for me.
Well, he's probably the 25th best center in the league or something. Like he's good,
Yeah.
but you can, if you're hoping to win a
Yeah.
cup, it's tough to win with that.
Yeah.
Game time.
Anyways.
That was probably too harsh. Maybe he's a little better than that.
Probably a lot better than that. He could be a Team Canada guy. It's game time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's everywhere ordinary at Bet365. That's 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. Only 2 games tonight on the ice, and the Toronto Maple Leafs are involved in one of them. They are home for the Colorado Avalanche. Going to be a great game. The Leafs are plus 110 underdogs, as you would imagine, on home ice. Rare to get the Leafs as a dog at all. So if you think the Leafs are going to win, that's a number for you. I wouldn't probably bet that.
I wouldn't bet that.
But they're a plus 110, and the Colorado Avalanche are minus 130. The other game in the ice tonight is the Seattle Kraken in Minnesota to take on the Wild. Wild are trying to accumulate as many points to hold on to one of their playoff spots. They had a big win over the Kings the other night. This is the last show we will do before March Madness starts tomorrow.
Oh, yes.
One of the
John's Red Storm, baby.
one of the best weekends in all of sports is the first weekend of March Madness of the NCAA basketball tournament. And the betting favorite to win it all, a very familiar team at the top of the list, the Duke Blue Devils are plus 300. My cousin Gracie's alma mater, the Florida Gators, are the second favorite at plus 375. And the Johnnies.
Give me the Johnnies.
They are 28-1 to win it all. So if you think your Johnny's got a chance, Borny, 28-1, and you can go all the way down the list for all the different ones involved there. But give me the Florida Gators, who I picked to win it on my bracket that will surely be done by the end of the first day.
I did a bracket in under 3 minutes last night.
I actually spent some time. Anyways, that was Game Time presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's ever ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly.
Okay, let's take a quick break. When we return, Stanley Cup champion Aaron Ward will join us. We'll talk a little Carolina Hurricanes, who have quietly won 7 games in a row. And they go out west starting tomorrow night to continue. Aaron Ward when we return to the Real Kyper and Bourne Show.
We're on. I'm just talking about leaking pipes in my house.
Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sam
shout out to
McKee.
Craft Restoration.
Welcome to Real Plumbing and Bourne.
Shout out to the company. Please help me.
So what's going on? Like your ceiling's leaking.
Yeah, like we came back from Disney and I was like, I'm broke. And then like the kitchen ceiling was like swelling because
Have you heard of the very famous children's book, The Paper Bag Princess? That's going to be him soon. He's going to be wearing paper bags.
I'm ruined.
It's like, why are you so thin? I just don't eat. I got no money.
An all potato
You got no
diet.
kids. How do you know about these books?
Me?
Yeah.
Because I read them as a child.
Because I was a kid. He's a veteran kid.
Yeah.
He's got experience.
Yeah.
All right. A reminder that this Real Kyper and Bourne Show brought to you by Bet365. As we wait on Aaron Ward. Is he here? Wardo!
How you doing?
Good, buddy. How are you? Still wearing green. What does that mean?
I'm it out right now. I'm just coming off the flu, so playing a little guilty.
Or St. Pat's. One of the two.
No, I didn't even get involved in St. Patty's Day. I was down and out on.
You were. Well, listen,
yeah.
We appreciate you joining us, man. Wow. Wanted to get some shout out to Carolina. I know the organization's been through a lot and quietly is, putting some non-believers in place with a 7-game winning streak. What have you seen out of them since this whole Rantanen thing was put behind them?
So I would tell you the disruption to the organization, specifically the locker room, the moment Rantanen entered in there was that I can't even draw upon experience. I don't know if you've ever played with a player that commanded so much attention, not because he was like a disruptor, but you kind of knew as a teammate that you wanted him to put him in a positive situation. You wanted him to start off right. And it almost became the main focus of this team, if you watch them play, that Rantanen had to be involved in, part of, a key contributor to, a catalyst. And the team seemed to lose their identity and how they play. Also, it was not lost on the players, I think, that this is not a system that was built for Rantanen. Like, Gensel might have been a better player in this system, but Rantanen doesn't want to have pucks lobbed in, doesn't want to have to go back in and battle them out and try and create offensive off of board battles and get into the slot, period. He's more, if you look at the Avalanche style, is bring it across blue line with possession, try and create off that. So I feel like, big word here, Carolina got discombobulated. They got away from what Roddy had systematically because they couldn't figure out what to do with Rantanen in the forward grouping. And since then, it's like they've regained their identity. They're no longer worried about the external chatter of what's going on. They're back to being in a small market where playing style of winning hockey under a coach that people love playing for has seemingly kind of given them a boost. And you can see it in the parity and scoring right now. I mean, they got 9 goals from their top line, 5 from the second line, and from the third and fourth, it's 7 goals and 6. So it's not like you can just identify them in one line and shut them down. And I would also tell you the D, I think, also went the same route when Rantanen was here. Like, they were out of sorts. Like, mistakes unbecoming of these guys that they weren't committing before. And I feel like they found themselves. I've never been enamored by Carolina's goaltending forever, so I don't even have a commentary on that. I don't always believe that they've got someone that's a game stealer on a given night.
Okay, so I look down the lineup, and they've got guys that can put the puck in the net, but aren't doing it at a tremendous rate. So when I think of Carolina today, especially coming off of Four Nations, I think of Slavin and a blue line. Is that their identity?
So the rule here in Carolina is defensively, you have to push the play. It's the same mentality as Laviolette had in 2006. Doesn't matter who you are, you have to be up in the play. You have to be right in the face of the blue line to get up there and push the play. I would tell you that these guys are serviceable. Chatfield came, I can't remember, did he come from Vancouver? I think he came from Vancouver.
Yeah.
Chatfield found himself here because the system fit him. Walker came from Philly, and he was the type of player analytically that Carolina loves. Led the league, and he was behind Makar in rushes by defensemen. This is a style of play they want. So Burns is getting a little long in the tooth, and we acknowledge that, but he's still highly effective. So it's been Burns and Slavin who've logged the most ice time. Orlov currently, I think he's day-to-day or injured. I'm not exactly sure. But Gostisbehere and Walker, I think they've gotten more than they expected out of these two. So these guys have done a pretty good job. So a D core, Carolina's never been accused of having big names on D, ever, personally. Like, can you name the six defensemen in 2006?
You can name
Probably
one.
not.
Wardo.
And that's where, well, so it's a collective group effort. I think a lot depends on, they're solid defensively, and they rely upon the quick breaks and the tenaciousness to create opportunities and turnovers for them to score. And with Svechnikov out right now, that's, him day to day doesn't exactly help them as they have to move Blake up to the top line, but it's still a more potent team currently in the state they're in right now than they were when they had Rantanen, and that's amazing to say.
I have a couple questions about Rod Brind'Amour. I think the first one is just about his emotional state and handling of the media. Like, he was pretty upset about the Rantanen stuff and said some things in the media. And then Eric Tulsky went on other shows and was just like, he gets a little bit like that. He's a little over the top. He's a very passionate guy. How does that play out in Carolina?
So Roddy takes it personally.
Yeah.
And it's not, and that's
it's
not
like a slight rant and didn't want to be there.
Oh God! Hey, listen, we had an alumni skate when they retired Stalzy's jersey in January 12th, and Kami, my Commodore, Kami might get a little chirpy with a couple of liquid beverages in him, and then he started giving it to Roddy, and then a bunch of us around were like, "Oh, I think we should back off a little bit." And Roddy is, even though he's in a coaching position, he still views the game as though he's a player.
Yeah.
Right? Coaches are supposed to separate themselves from that. They're leaders, but not competitors. Roddy will never lose the competitive component to him. It's going to be there forever. And I think that's where you get the emotion, and maybe why guys love playing for him. That when you get to the locker room at the end of the first and second period, a lot of players know already what's about to get said, and it's just a process. Coach comes in, yells at you, says a few F-bombs, and it's over with. Roddy will get down in the trenches with you and get over and into it over what is going on. Where are we mentally at? What are these things that are going on? So I find it, of all that, the most hilarious part is Tulsky's out there talking. I don't know if you know about Eric Tulsky, but he's not exactly, on the Love Boat welcoming people onto the vacation land.
But a real analytic guy, right?
He's never been accused of having a outwardly awesome, flowery, personality.
But this is kind of the shape of a managerial look that owner Tom Dundon wanted, right? And, the last couple of cracks feels like it was more about the analytical side than the component of a feel, of an absorption of the culture. I don't know. I may be way off, but they're 0 for 2. Between Gensel and Rantanen, they're 0 for 2.
So I would view Gensel differently. My understanding from that alumni weekend was that Gensel was, in fact, for staying here. It was the team shooting themselves in the foot and not doing what they needed to do. And the problem is when you have an owner who is a business owner and has built his businesses, he has a tendency to get involved directly with the allocation of funds, technically his funds, in the negotiations with the player. And that doesn't always serve well. It's not kosher with everybody. Sometimes you have to distance yourself there. So the Gensel one, Roddy really, really wanted Gensel back. And there were some funny stories about the first time, I guess, they saw each other in the hallway in Tampa. The interaction was more than awkward. But you have an owner in Dundon that has Tulsky in charge, who understands the analytical perspective. The philosophy here in Carolina is, if we can't get that player, we're going to get a like player, and we're going to get him for less. And we're going to try and see if we can get that guy to at least perform to a certain level where it's good enough for us. and that we will work around that. And they highly value the skill set of those people in the organization to do so, and they're pretty good. But the problem is, after a while, if you have designs in the Stanley Cup, you're going to have to do things like Jim Rutherford did. Went out and got Mark Recchi, went out and got Doug Wade. He made some major moves. Now, those are in season, but Carolina has to deal with a very big problem now of Randon coming out and saying he didn't want to be in Carolina because it's not the environment he wanted to be in. Truth is, it's a tough place to attract free agents who want to live in a Toronto or a Dallas or a New York or a Chicago. There are not glitzy, glamoury things on Glenwood Avenue. We have like 5 blocks of bars and tons of colleges. You have to attract guys that are like 28, 34, got kids. Beaches are an hour and a half to the east and mountains are an hour and a half to the west. And it's a great quality of living. And travel here is hour and a half north, hour and a half south. You never have long road trips. So you have to come up with a new design on how you sell your team. And what should help this team now is apparently, and when we come to investment in construction, apparently we're redoing the entire arena here in Carolina and the exterior. So that should create some atmosphere that didn't exist in 2006 when we held our Stanley Cup parade celebration in front of like 2,000 people on a stage.
All right.
2,000 more than a lot of guys in the league, I can tell you that.
Hey, it was a loud 2,000.
Yep. So totally agree with you on Gensel in terms of him wanting to stay. The way I heard it, Wardo, was that they didn't come up with the money until it was too late. And
yes.
And it was just, again, maybe it's that business philosophy of how you negotiate, but he just didn't get Gensel's offer in time for him to be.
So whose fault is that? So that's my question.
Yeah.
It goes back to what I just talked to you about. So whose fault would that be? That would be the organization's fault. Who's in charge of that?
Yes.
It's the owner. The owner needs to, in some capacity, let go and allow the people who have the history and the understanding of how the National Hockey League works to do it.
So my follow-up to you is, for a guy that's been burned twice now in this situation, do you see him doubling down as early as next season and not being scared or worried, or learning from something like this and obviously using it to his advantage the next go-around?
So I think that what exists here in Carolina is Justin Williams is his right-hand man. Like, they hang out a lot. They have a great personal relationship. I think Justin gives him solid advice. He's got a great rapport still. J-Dub does, with the players, with agents, with people. And I think he gives a pretty good landscape understanding of what is and what isn't. In that time, I got to believe that, $7.5 million next year? And then it's 8.5, then 9.5. There'll be a come to Jesus moment on how much do you really want to win the Stanley Cup and how much money you are willing to spend. Mm-hmm. That's where we stand. Money will talk. And I don't think they're up at the cap quite yet. So I think they can make some significant moves. They've still got an amazing core of young guys right now that they can do great things with.
So one thing I'm always curious about with Carolina, like, you do some analytic stuff and have had some eyes on that sort of stuff. They're always like the top team in terms of possession. They have the puck all the time. They control shot attempts. They control every hockey game they're in more than any other team in the league. Is that Rod Brind'Amour and his system and the way that he wants to play, or is that the team construction and the people they bring in?
Aspects. So I would tell you that. So I had one team tell me that Carolina is the most obnoxious, annoying team to play against. Mm-hmm. There's a soccer mentality that comes from analytics where if the further, this is soccer, the further the ball is away from your net, the more likely it is that you're not scored on. So the idea is, that's why now off the start of the game, they kick the ball all the way down the far end. There's no puck, no ball control. Same premise here in Carolina. The puck's in the zone. Notice how often Carolina lobs the puck out. Once it's in neutral, it's up for grabs. But tons of mistakes, tons of turnovers exist because they're tracking it, and defensemen have to turn and position themselves to find it. Further, they lob more pucks into the zone and retrieve them. Their rate of retrieval is nuts. So the retrieval battle component is Roddy Brind'Amour. I don't believe that the lack of possession coming across the blue is Roddy. Roddy liked to always set it up and drive wide. He was an old school mentality guy. So I think there's many derivatives of this system that they play that I think that he's kind of evolved into and helped create himself.
Great stuff, pal. And by the way, you did a great job of talking about their blue line and their forwards, and you just totally glazed over their goaltending. Last time I checked, it was pretty important come this time of year.
No, like I said, we have been forever. If you think back to when they got eliminated by Boston, I think Mrazek was in that at that time.
Oh,
I think it was, yeah. And we have been begging, I say we as in Carolina.
Sure.
They have been begging for a goalie here since 2017.
Yeah, and not delivered. I thought Gibson was going there for sure, pal. I
Same. did. And they refused to address it. Kachekov's good, but he's erratic.
Yep.
He's a wreck?
Erratic.
Erratic,
He's
okay.
all over the place.
Yeah.
Erratic. He's all over the place. Like he's kind of sketchy in the net. He makes acrobatic saves. He's a very athletic guy, but sometimes you're like, play goal.
Wardo, great stuff, pal. Thanks for doing this. Great insight
thanks,
on the Carolina Hurricanes.
Thanks, Wardo.
We'll get you on again soon. Aaron Ward, Stanley Cup champion. He was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Really good. And
As
he gave us some
player or as a guest?
just 30 seconds ago.
Yes, it was wonderful.
Yeah. And he knows that organization very well. No?
Should have got a goalie.
Yeah, should have got a goalie. He's saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Just saying the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you sat there and looked at that roster, I like their decor a lot too. But there's a lot of, Jackson Blake and, pretty up the Taylor Hall and Kotkaniemi and Roslovic are a second line. They're a strange team.
They all look the same in jerseys to me.
Yeah,
Whenever they
I
play,
love
Yeah.
Martinook and Stahl. Those guys are
He spoke of the owner now just trying to figure it out and knowing that you're going to have to spend more money and you can't really treat it like a million other companies that you just bought and trying to figure out what's scraps and what's still good and piece it off. And it's like, no, we're talking about lives and we're talking about players that need to feel more than just being bought.
for sure. It is crazy though. Who's had more playoff games than them over the past 5-7 years? They go to the conference final. It feels like every year, and the owner gets 6-7 home gates,
and then they hit a wall, and they're not good enough to win a championship.
And they hit the wall as Sam Bennett running into Jacob Slavin for the hardest hit maybe in NHL history.
But they seem to, more than any other organization, and I shouldn't say more than any other, but more than most, prioritize long-term health of the franchise. Mm-hmm. They're not willing to just burn the boats and go all in, which I think it is a bigger risk when you're in a place like Carolina of having those seasons where you're just no good and people are like, we'll just go to Pinehurst instead.
But if you burn the boats and then a couple years you suck, then you just lose your whole fan base. So you want to kind of be consistently decent so that you're always involved, and they're always in it.
It's like St. Louis and Washington. If you're one of the better teams long enough, maybe things break your way one year.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's this year for them, but it'll be good again next year.
Wouldn't pick them against any of them.
No.
Would you pick them against Florida or Tampa or
Probably not.
Ottawa?
Yes.
Our thanks
No offense, Ottawa.
Our thanks in our Leaf edition to Dr. Jason Smith,
That was awesome.
Jason York, and moments ago, Aaron Ward. Quiet night in the National Hockey League, which means you don't touch this dial. You just stay with it, because at 6:30 we'll pregame Colorado and Toronto Maple Leafs.
Let's go.
Sammy,
Excited.
give us a score.
4-2 Colorado.
Leafs win.
Yeah, let's go. Come on. We're in Canada, Sammy. Come on.
Colorado's better. They're good.
Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for joining us.